Yearning for the presence of both his parents as a little boy, our guest today, Mornay Human, tried seeking solace and an identity in drug use. Despite defending his addiction to the bitter end, the reality of homelessness, spiritual bankruptcy, and hopelessness was glaring. His desperate search for who he truly is, however, led him to a path of recovery with 9 years of sobriety under his belt. He is a qualified addiction counselor and the founder of New Road Treatment Center, offering hope and a new life to men suffering from addiction. So Mornay, we're currently at New Road Treatment Center, specializing in the rehabilitation of drug and alcohol abuse, as well as self-development. But there's a very, very interesting story behind this rehabilitation center, and you're involved in it in a special way. Can you please give us a backstory?
My name is Mornay. I'm an ex-drug addict. I'm an ex-alcoholic. I'm 9 years clean and sober. I'm addiction counselor by profession, but I love what I do, man. And it brought me to this point where I wanted to do more for the community, and not just for the community, but for myself, because I can only keep what I have by giving it away, and that will keep me sober, you know. And it's also a way of doing God's work. That is the most important thing, doing God's work. So how did it come to New Road? I first needed to serve, Natalie. You know, I first needed to serve. When I came in recovery, I needed to do me first. When I mean do me, I can't offer someone a 10 rand if I don't have a 10 rand. So Mornay first needed to find out who Mornay really is. Mornay needed to find out that he was a young boy that was trapped, because I always wanted to be someone else. I never wanted to be Mornay. Mornay was this type of guy that his mother always used to buy things for him. I was brought up with clothes, I was brought up with money, but there wasn't really love. If Mornay gets to school on a Monday morning, all my friends in the class used to speak about how they did homework with their parents. I never participated in that topic because I felt I don't belong there. Because nobody did homework with me. Because my mother is a professional runner, so she was always on the road, man. She was never there. And I was raised by a single parent. I'm the only child at home, so I was quite spoiled. But the reason also my mother spoiled me, because it was also out of guilt. Because why she felt that this boy is always speaking about his father, and he couldn't see his father, and where is his father, and there was never answers. There was never answers, and it carried on, man. But what stood out was, what went wrong is when the time I went to the streets seeking for a father figure outside. And I guess that my choices that I made was still affecting me in the future, you know. And the story of mine, how can I say, it is like, I was lonely. I was maladjusted to life. I didn't really know how to deal with life or how to face life. And because I needed to figure all these things out. Hence I came to this point where I needed to open up my own center so that I can help other people, man.
So we see a lot of conversations coming up now around the boy child and challenges that men face silently, which historically there weren't many conversations, or at least not publicly anyway, like they are on the internet. Can you possibly, you've mentioned a little bit about how you grew up, just you touched on it a little bit, but are you able to just walk us through, give us like a really in-depth journey of what it was like as a little boy in your family setup, in the type of community you were raised in, the school setup? What was Mornay's upbringing and view as a little boy?
Wow, that's a question. Okay. At the age of 2, Mornay's father I can't say that he was an alcoholic. He needs to diagnose himself. But he drank heavily and he abused my mother. And I was sent to Rustenburg, man. I was sent to go stay with my granny. And I think there already this abandonment came. The rejection already started. What I can remember is how far I can remember. The age of 5, I went to crèche, as they call it, grade R or whatever. And that day, me and my cousins, all of us went to the same preschool. And when we got there, all of them had new clothes on, actually. But I had my cousins' small clothes on. And you know how did that make me feel that day? And to top things off, what make it worse, all my cousins came with both their parents on that day. And that day, my grandmother and my grandfather dropped me. I felt so belittled. I felt so worthless. I felt like, and I had a jealousy within me. And I mean, it's not normal for a 5-year-old to be jealous for his cousins because they, both their mothers and fathers was there. But you see, as a young boy, let me say as men, community, the society say tigers don't cry. And this is where we put this facade on, where we put this, we hide our emotions and feelings behind the mask. And from that day already I started building this mask. Because why? From there, primary school I got bullied. In primary school I got bullied and I needed to wear a mask. And I think my identity was taken away from me. I lost my identity in primary school because every time when I should have cried, I never cried. So I was a confused boy from the age of 7, 8 years already. Because when I needed to show emotion, I never showed emotion. So I was already unstable from a younger age. But nevertheless, when I was in primary school, I did well. I played rugby, I played cricket because now I was in a school where there was mostly white. It was a white school, if I may say. And every time when I did well and I played well, when I looked to the stands neatly, when people clap hands, when I turn around, there was nobody to watch me. Because my grandmother and grandfather was old, they couldn't come sit in the sun and watch at me. But all my other teammates, their mothers and fathers was there. And this continued to happen. And even in high school, the same pattern happened. Because from primary school, I moved back to Johannesburg and I came to stay with my mom. And hence I'm saying my mom, because out of guilt, because she was never there for me, I think this is where the spoiling started. Because now she wanted to play catch up with me. Because now she started buying things. And when I just say, Ma, I need this, and then she will put 100 rand or 300 rand in my hand. And then I'm the age of 10, 11, 12. But already she will leave me with a 500 rand on weekends. I mean, who does that? But I did well at high school as well. I played soccer, I did well. But every time, there was a specific day in Italy when I scored a hat-trick, 3 goals. And we won the tournament. But yet, there was nobody to see me score the 3 goals. There was nobody from my side to see that. Everybody was happy for me. But the people that I really wanted to make happy wasn't there to see this. And that was how Mornay grew up. Mornay was raised with food, with clothes, with money. There was food in the cupboards, but no love. And that was my journey.
This is very interesting because you hear another conversation that people often speak about, which is absent fathers, which you've mentioned. Yes, your dad was absent, but something we don't often hear about is an absent mom. I think that's very interesting. Are you able to tell us, perhaps from your earliest memory? Yes, your mom's a runner. She may not physically have been there, but what was your relationship with your mother, if there was one at all? From as young as you possibly can remember, what was that dynamic like?
My relationship with my mom she was there. My mom, like I said, she loved me to the birds. I won't say that my mom was a bad mom, but she did her best. It's just the mere fact that she was never present. My mom, for her, doing her best was to provide for her son, to go out of her way, she worked so hard, she made sure that I have everything I have of the best, and but she went out of her way. But our relationship, like I said, she wasn't present, and that is what Mornay needed. I need to mention there's a neighbor opposite me. It's another two brothers. So I always wanted to be at this house opposite. Because why? They never had what I had, man, lately. I had toys, I had whatever. They never had what I had, but I was seeking what I had. Because there was both parents in the house. There was siblings, a brother and a sister. And that's my reason I always just wanted to be there, because why? It was a type of a family thing. And that was what Mornay was yearning for. This family-orientated home. And when Mornay comes from school, Mornay's all alone. I had toys, I had a PlayStation, I had an Xbox, but yet I was lonely. So I didn't really have a relationship.
I'm wondering, because your grandmother was there, or your grandparents, for the most part.
Yes.
Could they give you support in any way? Of course, your mum, that's what you really needed. You needed her actual presence there.
Yes.
But could your grandparents offer any support? Did you get, even if it's like a tiny, minute little bit of support? Could you, in other words, were you able to cry in their arms? Were you able to speak when you say, I miss my mom? Could you get that support as a little boy?
I think most of the time when it was holidays, I always wanted to go back to Granny, because Granny is the one that gave me that type of love. Granny was the one that could give me the hug. Granny was there. And it's true what you're saying, because at least I couldn't wait for holidays, because I know when it was school by us and school closed, I know I can always go back to Northwest and go to Granny and feel some type of appreciated. I felt discomfort. I felt that I'm at home. So Granny was there. Granny was always there. She's still there, but yeah.
So at least there was some sort of support. So you spoke about getting all of these material things from your mom that was provided in an abundance, whether it was clothing items or branded shoes or money itself. How did receiving these things in such an abundance at a young age, and also maybe not understanding their value, you haven't worked for them,
Yes.
how did that make you view yourself? What sort of self perspective did it give you? Did it, for example, did the clothes make you, or did you at that sort of young age, if you get what I'm trying to get at?
Nettie, that's a good question. When I realized what really happened to me was I became selfish. I became prideful. I became egotistical, because now I thought I'm better than the rest of the world. Because when I always thought that he was better than the next person, I always felt I had more than the next person. And I only came to realize that when I came into recovery. But at first for me it was like I felt in control. I felt superior. I felt that nobody can tell me, man. Because why? I was always the one at school when it is, your spring days, it's your Valentine's Day days at school. I was always the one providing. I was always the one making the party happen. I would buy the things at school. So I was dominating. That was me. If you don't do what I say, then you're not in this group or in this crew of mine. And I was always the one. I was actually being a boss man. I thought that I was the alpha and omega, because I could provide, because the labels that I wore was better than the next person. And I think that took me to another level. It took me to another level, and there already my addiction started. Even before I picked up drugs or alcohol, but there already my addiction started. because why? I always felt that I am better than the next person.
And I want us to speak about that path that you found yourself going on to, involving drugs and other risky behavior. I want you to please walk us through the details of that journey. What did it involve? Who did it involve? What was the aftermath, just for that listener to understand that picture of when the darkness really just started creeping in?
So what happened was, Nettie, like I said, in high school, I was bullied when I got to high school as well. Because I was quite really short and I come from a type of home where I didn't really know how to defend myself. And, like I said, I was a spoiled brat, man, And and for me, it was always about me. So when I got to high school and I got bullied, and I told myself, this will never happen to me again. And what I did was, so now I started buying friends, if I must say so. So I'll pay people, to protect me, and I'll pay people to hang out with. And this is where the absent father came in, because all my friends at school were older than me. Even in primary school, I was never walking around with my age. I always wanted someone older than me, because I never see them or saw them as friends. I was looking for a father figure into my friends. So all my friends, even in high school, I wanted a father figure. So they were elder than me, and from the time I met these elder guys, like I was in grade 8 and my friends were already in grade 11. And I think this is where everything started. Because now already my behavior wasn't as a grade 8. My behavior was already as a grade 11 student, because they were in grade 11 and they were starting already to go to clubs. They were hanging out in where there was alcohol, where alcohol was now available or whatever. I think I was also exposed to this at a young age, and I saw, wow, this is what Mornay needed. And when I say this is what Mornay needed, Mornay was so scared of speaking to a girl. But the moment Mornay takes the first sip of alcohol, when I start drinking, I can speak to the opposite sex. Mornay was scared. I never thought I could dance, but when I am drunk or intoxicated, I can dance. And I said, wow, this is what I needed, man. Where was this thing all along? And this is where my alcoholism started. Because every time, and it also make me realize that when I need to speak to a woman, there must be alcohol involved. So I always associated alcohol with women. But lately, when I came to recovery, I realized also it made me a rapist. And I need to be real. Because every time I'm drunk or every time I'm high with a lady, I used to sleep with her. And now I realized that I was abusing this lady or this woman. I was using them because they were vulnerable. If they weren't drunk or high, I never think they would have slept with me. So this also made me a rapist, man. And same like the drugs. It started off because this elder friends of mine introduced me to a cigarette. They introduced me to a dachazol, and it started there. It started slowly, and it was nice at first. Like I said, because I never participated in the class, because people in the classroom, their parents spend time with them doing homework, and I felt, no, I don't belong there. Automatically, it took me to the class, to the toilet at school, and in the toilet is where I was introduced to these things. Because I felt so unworthy, I felt worthless, so I needed something to make me feel okay.
You mentioned you were seeking a father figure. And I think so many men or boys can relate to this. And you don't often think that you can look to friends, older friends, for a father figure. Seeing that you've also had challenges with, needing your mom there, more than just maybe providing again just those material things. You really just needed her emotionally. Yeah. Were there ways that you were possibly seeking a mother figure as well? And if so, how were you seeking a mother figure?
There was times when my mother she was there, and I guess because when Mornay needed her the most, she wasn't there. So when she really wanted to be with me, I think I blocked off. I felt that now only, when I really needed you, when I did well academically, when I did well with sports, and there was time for me to achieve something, or I did good, the time when I really needed you, you weren't there. So for me, I felt it's too late now. So I was also really the one blocking her off, So she wanted to be part of my life. And that I also realized when I came to recovery that my mother also went out of her way, man. She wasn't a bad mom. Like I said, she wasn't a bad mom. She did what she needed to do, and she also went the extra mile. But because I was blinded, because of my pride and my ego, never allowed me to have this perfect or less relationship with my mom.
I once heard that addiction is an emotional disease. Based on your life experience, would you agree with that statement?
Yes, most definitely. Like I said, society messed us up, and they said tigers don't cry. And we start with addiction. We start using drugs. We start drinking, not just because why it is nice. Not just because why we just one day decided, hey, today's the day I'm going to use drugs, today I'm going to drink myself until oblivion. No. There's something that took place. There's something down the line that took place. Like I said, for me it was this thing of my father. I didn't mention lately that while I was in high school, I played soccer, and the one day we came from the stadium, and we wanted to go buy food at this one place. They were selling nice food, and I needed a 5 rand, to buy for me something that I needed. And in this 15 years that I never had a relationship with my father, I saw my father that day, and I needed a 5 rand neatly, and I asked him for a 5 rand, and he said no. But my smaller brother, it is his child from another woman, from another marriage, came around the corner, and he asked him for an ice cream. And my father took a 20 rand out. You know what that did to me, Natalie, that day? It's like my life just, it's like, I don't know what happened to me. But anyways, because of the flesh, I say things that I didn't need to say because out of emotion, how I felt, and there was a whole conflict happening there. And his car was parking in the parking at a shopping complex, and I threw his windscreen with a brick. And my father took out a gun, and he pointed me. And I said, yeah, you are a bad dad, you are absent dad, so it's fine, you shoot me, man. You are not in my life, so it's alright, man, you can shoot me. And I turned around and I walked away. And yet this story, I still never told anyone this story. Because this is how a man is. We like to keep quiet. We don't want to speak about things, our emotions. We don't want to speak about how we feel. And a man don't know how to deal when they are rejected, when they are abandoned, when they get hurt. We don't like to feel pain. That is a man. So I walked with this thing because I never wanted to tell anybody this story. And this also drove me also to addiction. And you know what did happen? I was drinking poison, expecting my father to die because of what he did. And I told myself for years, how can this man, he wasn't in my life, and still he can rob me just because I wanted the 5 rand. How can this guy do this to me? And I think this also made my disease progress.
When did you realize, before I get to my next question, you mentioned that men don't like to talk. I want to challenge you on that. Is it that they don't like to talk, or that they don't have spaces that are safe that they can speak in, or that they don't have people they can speak to?
I think they don't have people they can speak to. This is one of the reasons why Neuro Treatment Center is here. I always tell the guys, this is a safe environment and this is a dumping grounds. I think Neuro Treatment Center offers where guys can be open and honest, because what I hear from the guys when we sit and do our meetings or do our sessions or one-on-one counseling, you'll be surprised, you'll be amazed by what is said here, Natalie.
I'm going to get to the treatment center in a little bit, but I want to know, Mornay, when did you realize that you needed help? And how did that help come about? In what form was it?
Natalie, just a small breakdown about my addiction. As I said, it started in high school. It progressed. I was in matric. I had an overdose in matric. Pipes in my throat and down in my nose. And yet, I still never realized that I needed help. Because why? I defended this addiction of mine until to the bitter ends. I changed geographically. I moved from Annandale, I moved to a different province because I felt maybe if I go there where nobody knows me, this addiction thing will leave me. But I never knew that I was the problem. I was taking the problem with me. I came back and it was still the same. But what got me to the point of me saying enough is enough? When I hit rock bottom, I was put out. My mother had a restraining order against me because I started stealing at home and I did all the wrong things, and I was away from home for 3 weeks. This one Sunday I came home and I was really hungry and I really wanted a nice plate of food, and I smelled the food from the gate, Natalie. And because I caused so much of hurt at home already, my mother gave me 2 slices of peanut butter through a room of burglars with a saucer. And she gave me that, and I expected a plate of food. And she said, take this and F out of my yard. I'm tired of you, Mornay, and I can wish you could die. And for me, that never sat well with me, because how can my mother say to her only son, I wish you could die? But I never understood why she could say that to me, but it hurt. And that made me realize that I really caused damage. And that same night, Natalie, I went and I was living in this broken house, and I was sleeping. My slippers was my pillow. But that same Sunday, I went down on my knees, Natalie, and I said, God, please help me. If you can't help me, rather take me. Because that night, I really wanted to die. Because that night, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. But when I stood up from my knees, Natalie, something changed, yet nothing has changed. Because I was still in the same situation. I was homeless. I was motherless. I was spiritualless. I was hungry. I was everything less. But within myself, I felt something different after I said that prayer. And what was put inside of me, all I could remember was, Mornay, just go home. And when I got home, that same Sunday, my mother said, Mornay, don't play with me, boy. I'm going to work. It's 11 o'clock. And that is how I know it was 11 o'clock. And I said, this was my words to my mom, I'm done with the street. And she said, you always say this, and I'm tired about your apologies, and I'm tired of your sorries. And I said, Mom, I'm done with the street. That was my words. She opened the door for me and I went in. That was the 7th of July, 2014. Today I'm 9 years clean and sober. I never looked back. That was my last of drinking and drugging, Natalie.
That is so encouraging, I think, to anybody listening at the moment. I think whether you've been through addiction or not, I think it's humbling just to hear that someone has been able to, obviously through the grace of God,
Yes.
get on their feet again. And I want to speak about rehab now, because it's so easy to encourage people who are battling, just go to rehab, just do what you need to do. But that journey of healing is not so easy, because that's a battle on its own. Can you tell us about your path with recovery, what that is like? What are the not so often spoken about things about healing, that it might not be so smooth, that you might be healing the one moment and feel like you're on top of the world, and the next you might feel like you're taking 10 steps back. Could you please walk us through that journey of recovery?
When I came into recovery 2014, I went back to school, Natalie. I went back to school, and like I said previously, I failed my matric, man, and because of my addiction. But I went back to school, and I think I was the eldest guy in the class. But I know why I was there, and I passed with 3 distinctions. In 2017, I went to go study addiction counseling. As I said, I'm an addiction counselor by profession. So I'm mentioning this because with recovery, anything is possible. When you're sober and when you put your mind to something, you will be able to do it. And my recovery journey started, like I said, I can only offer someone attention when I have it. So I needed to go through a process where I needed to find out the terms and conditions. Why did Mornay started using drugs in the first place? So now I needed to deal with Mornay. So I needed to find out who Mornay truly is. And hence I said, Mornay was this lonely boy, Mornay was this spoiled boy. And when I got to recovery, I needed to be a responsible man. I needed to pick up. I needed to get rid of my pride and my ego, all those things. And I needed to accept that I can't do this thing on my own. Firstly, I accepted Christ, my Lord and personal Savior, because without God, you can't do this. There is no chemical solution to a spiritual problem. And that is what a lot of people don't know. We use drugs, and we drink, and we gamble, and we run to sex, and we drink Cokes, and we drink Red Bulls, and we drink Grandpas, because there is a lack of spirituality within us. The reason I say that, Natalie, I just need to mention this. Why would a 12-year-old, when he gets dumped for the first time from the girlfriend or the boyfriend, or a family member pass away, or if he loses someone, or he's been rejected, why is suicide the first thing? Because he doesn't know, or she doesn't know who to run to. It's lack of spirituality. But if that 12-year-old had Jesus, they would have run to Jesus and rather run to killing themselves. And that is the same with Eric. I was spiritually bankrupt. I was spiritually empty. And hence, if I knew Jesus then, I don't think I would have filled myself with alcohol, with drugs, with women, and all this other stuff. Because I was broken from the inside. But I thought the things of the outside would fill this void. But all I needed to do was to dig deep inside of me. Because for deep down in every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. I just needed to find out where that power is. But this is what I learned in recovery. And this is what I learned, guys, in the program, And my recovery, what I love about recovery is, today I am a family-orientated man, because I never had it. Today, I'm a father. Today, I'm a son. Today, I need to mention I have the most beautiful relationship with my mom ever. Yeah, Natalie. My mom doesn't make a decision without me. Whether it's financial, whether she's going on a vacation, whether she's going to go run again, she will first consult with me. And I guess because I am there. I guess because she has a son back. That is why the mom and son relationship is restored. My mom never hated me. She hated the addict. She hated the person I became because of drugs and alcohol. And that is who she hated, not Mornay, you know. And when my life changed so drastically, I said, no, man. There is guys that needs to hear the truth. And this is where it comes about, where I open up Neuro Treatment Center. You know, to offer this amazing truth, what I have received.
You mentioned that your relationship with your mom has been restored. Have you guys ever sat down and had an honest one-to-one about where your addiction stemmed from and just your overall pain?
Yes, definitely. If I had to be honest with you, the only reason, you know, when I came to recovery and I sat her down and I asked, but Mom, what really happened? You know, why did all these things? You know, everybody makes decision based on emotions. And for me, not having a father, it's not because why my father was never there, Netly. My father was present, Netly. My father came to visit me. My father sent money, he sent clothes, he sent toys. But because why he was abusing my mom, my granny told my mom, he will never see this child. Now, why I am mentioning this, there's a lot of parents or grandparents out there that is robbing kids like me. There's a lot of kids going to drugs because of fatherlessness, because of the grandparents, because a father not being able to provide for his son or his daughter. Now the grandparent is keeping the father away from his child. It doesn't matter if the father is not supporting his child. He has a right to see his son. Because I used to use drugs because of this. And my mom told me that, Mornay, I was there. She was always there. I was the one that blocked her off, you know. I was the one that blocked her off, but we had the best one-on-ones here in recovery. And like I said, man, hey, we have the best relationship now.
I think that's really lovely to hear. Now, speaking about the center that we're at, which is your center that we're sitting at, you've walked me through the different rooms, the layout of the center. I've got to meet some of the incredible men who are here, who you're helping out, which is just really so admirable. Earlier on, you spoke about the types of stories that you hear from these men. Are you able to tell us what are some of the more common challenges that these young men are facing that we don't know about, that they're facing silently, that even lead to them needing to come to rehab?
What I can say is, you know, the man outside is suffering in silence. There is man outside that has been molested. There's man that has been raped from family members. There is men that grew up with single parents, without both parents. There is men that has diseases, you know, and doesn't know how to deal with those diseases as they run to addiction, you know, to drugs and alcohol, to numb pains, you know, to numb their feelings. The man has gone through divorces. There's men that has lost family members that doesn't know how to deal with. There's men that's been abused by women for years, like I said, in silence. And in society is always the other way around. But there is men that has been abused by women. There's men that has been abused or raped in prison. Because why? When they do wrong, family feels that prison is the way. And when they get out of prison, because now they've been sleeping with men, they get out of prison, how do we expect now this man to become a father again? How do we expect him to become a man again in society? You know? So there's a lot of things that has been said in this place, you know. And on the outside, they never had anyone or a platform or a safe environment to speak to anyone about this. Hence, neuro treatment center is there for them, you know, to speak about all this different trauma experiences they've had or experienced.
And from your experience speaking with these gentlemen and having this platform, for instance, just to have someone to give a listening ear, like yourself, in which ways has this changed some of these men that you see here for the better?
Hey, you know, when they come in with baggages. When I mean baggages, they come in with a lot of guilt and remorse and pain and suffering, you know, embarrassment. As time goes in the recovery process, the load starts getting lesser. You know, you see the smile, the genuineness starts becoming. You know, they no more, the masks falls off. So you start seeing the real Mornay, you know. When he laughs genuinely. When he smiles genuinely, you know. So they do things because they really enjoy it, you know. A lot of times when they come to these rooms, they come broken. They come unsure. They come unworthy. They feel unworthy. But as we continue this program, you know, and go through the program of recovery, there's a lot of change that takes place here.
What are some of the things that you offer at your rehabilitation center for these young gentlemen?
Okay, firstly, the spiritual part is the most important part, you know. That is the most important part. But before we get to the spirituality, you first need to deal with the actual problem. Because why? For me, to become spiritual, it means to have a relationship with God. And I can never have a relationship with God if I'm still dirty with inside. So I first need to deal with the person that has raped me. So I first need to forgive that person. So that is where we start first. So we do a 12-step program. And the first step is to admit that I have a problem. So Mornay first needs to see that he has a drug problem and what took place and how my life had become unmanageable and how powerless I was over my addiction. Because addiction will make choices for you. Addiction will tell you when to eat, sleep, drink, or who even to hang out with. And when you move to your next step is where you can find a power greater than yourself that can restore you to sanity. So now I've seen where I've come from. I've seen what I did wrong. So now I move closer to a solution. So I see, okay, now in step 2 I can see, no, there's a solution. When I get to step 3, I need to make a decision now. Am I gonna take the solution? And am I sure I want to do this? And when I want to do this, in step 4 now I need to start making I need to take a moral inventory of myself. Now I look and I go back at where it all started. Hence I explained my story from the age of 2, the age of 5. So I take you far back. Because most of us, when we come to an institution like this, we want to sort out things that happened 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, or a year ago. And that is not your problem. Your problem comes on years, many years ago. So I take you, because I believe, Natalie, the deeper you go, the freer you become. And hence I make them go deep so that we can sort out the root of your problem.
Do you find that these men, now that they're in recovery, have support, additional support from their family? Or do you find that there's cases where families have just cut them off despite them now taking on this decision to heal themselves?
100% of the time, families has cut them off. Most of the time, families has cut them off. But Natalie, I need to mention, the God that we serve, once the person fixes himself, everything around him falls into place. So when we deal with the individual, and because I make frequent contact with the families, so I give the progress report, and I speak to them and I explain to them what is taking place, and then families start believing that he is changing. Families start seeing, oh, okay, he's getting there. Phone calls, even with visitation, they see a difference, they hear a difference, because why recovery is not an outside thing, it's an inside job. So it's not about how you look from the outer appearance, but the inside. Because along a line, when we used to drug or in addiction, you lose your morals and your values. So here you start regaining things again. Learn to say morning again, learn to say good night, learn to eat around the table with the family. Don't take your food like in addiction. We take our food and we go sit in the room and eat alone. So I teach them and I take them back to morals and values, praying, saying thank you, saying yes and amen, all those things. But as the changes takes place, families start reuniting.
We had a chat a little bit before our interview, and you spoke about the center and the different ways that it actually empowers the men. That's unique, unlike any other typical rehab center we might encounter. Can you, just for those listening, just let them in onto just some of the really unique things and the things that you're doing to empower men, other than just, okay, you've got your 12-step program, yes, but there were additional things that make this center just so valuable?
Excuse me. Oh, okay, at Neuro Treatment Center, we offer something different. As most rehabs, when you're in rehab, when you finish your program, and they send you home when you're idle-minded at home, you have nothing to do again. At Neuro Treatment Center, we started a learnership, whereas you can, as a father in rehab, you can do the learnership, earn earn a salary, and still be a father that's providing. So it is for you to fix your life. While fixing your life, you still provide. You can become a breadwinner while fixing your life, And it's not what a lot of rehabs do offer. We're also setting up a call center, so where we can upskill guys, guys that doesn't know how to even use a phone, guys that doesn't even know how to do things. So we're also here to skill them up and help the individual, in their walk of recovery.
I want to take a step back just a little bit, because whenever we think of drugs, we always just think of your so-called hardcore drugs. But there's a drug like alcohol that is way more socially acceptable, where you're allowed to be, even at work,
yes,
it's so easily accepted and accessible. But alcohol is really deteriorating communities, and especially men, at a faster rate than I think we're willing to admit. What conversations are we not having around just how bad alcohol actually is?
Netly, when it comes to alcohol, I think alcohol is the most dangerous silent killer. When I say the most dangerous silent killer, because alcohol is socially accepted in our communities, and it is so, nobody sees really the dangers of it. As I've mentioned, that most of the time families abuse takes place in the house, where a father, when he's drunk, starts abusing his wife, or starts hitting his children or abusing his children. Kids are being neglected. When I say neglected, they promise their kids to take them somewhere, and when it comes to that time, because there's always alcohol involved, the promise has never been fulfilled or kept. Alcohol will make you sleep with your 12-year-old daughter when your wife works night shift. When you're under the influence, you do a lot of crazy things. When you're under the influence, you become abusive. When you're under the influence, it is so easy for you to become a rapist. When you're under the influence, it's so easy for you to kill someone, because a fight can break out anytime. Because you're under the influence, you can hit someone with a bottle at the wrong place. That person might die, the person might be injured, you know. With alcohol, it's a distraction on its own. But because it's socially accepted, people don't see really the damages it causes in society.
So there's a conversation right now at the center of, well, so many people's conversation, whether online or offline, and that's got to do with masculinity. And a lot of the people would have these sentiments that, just by virtue of just being male or man, men are just toxic by trait. There's no hope for them. Steer clear from them. There's no future with them. But I can only imagine that you're trying to change the definition of what it means to be a man and to be masculine at this treatment center and in your interactions with people because of your experience. So what would you say is that new definition that you're giving about what a man really needs to be in his house, to himself, when he goes out in the world, when he's partaking in the corporate space? What is this new definition of manhood or masculinity that you are trying to create at your rehabilitation center?
I think what's happening in society or in our communities is that men portray something or someone that they are not. A neuro treatment center is where you become real. Is where Mornay meets Mornay, And Mornay needs to accept that this is who and what God intended him to be. Because a lot of men always wanted to be someone else, or they always want to be something better. But in Neuro Treatment Center is where you find yourself, You find your true self, is where you pull yourself towards yourself, man. If I must put it in those terms. And what we also teach men here is for them to take their rightful place back in society. The men out of Neuro Treatment Center become breadwinners again. They become fathers again. They become sons, uncles, and nephews again. They go out and live normal lives again. Even though they've been living this horrible, painful, destructive life, but when they come out of here, they get to love this beautiful way of life. And I think the men in Neuro Treatment Center are so fortunate, Netly, because they get to live two lives in one lifetime. They get to live this horrible life and they find this new way of life. So they know about living a life that is not real, and they start living a life that is real.
For that gentleman who may come across this episode of the podcast right at the second or even 5-10 years from now, and he knows something is not right and he needs help, he just may not have the courage, he may not be willing to admit or to see himself and identify with this problem, what sort of advice would you give to that gentleman?
If you look into the mirror and you look at yourself and you realize that this is not me, this is not who God intended me to be, I think that is the time you need to go down on your knees, or that is the time when you need to reach out to someone. Because why? Then you are really gonna lose yourself, And there is a lot of, on social media, you will find New Road on social media. There's a lot of help that is there for you. And just reach out, man. Just reach out before it's too late.
And as we wrap up now, Mornay, just lastly, is there anything from your journey, whether it's your earlier memories, your childhood, whether it's even where you are right now in your journey of life, is there anything that still strikes you? It still stands out? That could be good or bad.
Yes.
Is there just anything, whether it's a realization, whether it's an interaction you've had with somebody, whether it's something you've realized within yourself, but if there's just that one thing that just stands out in your journey for you?
Wow, what a question. Lately, to be honest with you, you know, my father passed on 2 years ago. And hence I said I never had a relationship with my father 15 years. When I came to recovery, and when I started my program, my recovery program, and my sponsor, the person that, you know, guides me in my recovery, and he asked me a question. He said, Mornay, if you want to be a son, if you want to have a father, you become a son. But I never understood that phrase, you know. And I went home and I was pondering on this. If you want to have a father, you become a son. And I phoned my father. I just picked up the phone and I called my father. And as I called my father and I said, hello there. This is now not having a relationship for 15 years and after our incident we had. And he said, and my father started crying over the phone. And he said, Mornay, I've been waiting for this call for 15 years. Now why I say that stood out for me is he didn't know how to apologize. But from that moment, I forgave my father and we started having a relationship. And we had the best relationship for 7 years. When I say the best relationship for 7 years, my father didn't buy me anything in that 7 years, Natalie. He never bought me nothing. He never gave me money. But he was a father. And that is what I wanted, to have a father. Something I was seeking on the outside, I got from my father. He was a present father for 7 years in my life. And for that, I'm truly grateful.